It's called, just because I have a brain freeze right now, I'm sorry, but it's a science center / hospital. So we need to expand on that as well. But, you know, Mining Expo, thank you very much.
Okay, next question. Based on the services that are currently being provided, what are the strategies that you would implement to increase the value of our tax dollar? We'll start with John.
Great. For starters, I will work with the public to make them aware of all the activity at City Hall. I will work to provide public disclosure and open data, and this will increase accountability. I will look at the idea of the reduction of development charges to a reasonable level agreed on by developers and the city. I will work to eliminate council-controlled slush funds. I will request that the city set performance targets and request realistic results from our staff, and these should be measured with performance assessments. I will also entertain the idea of rewarding city staff and managers for finding savings. I will also work with staff to promote the greater Sudbury better, promote the market for Greater Sudbury better. We will entertain the idea of offering vacant industrial and commercial lands at $1 an acre and reduce property taxes for the first fiscal year while a new company builds. We must also look at getting a better warranty on work that we receive from contractors for services and work. Thank you. Next is Richard left over time.
We have seen in the past where a contractor was awarded and the project seemed to have been done as per required. But unfortunately, contractors have forgotten to change pipes, cables, types of aggregate, and so on. He then comes back and repairs the error, and so on, which comes back to our costs. Another example, we have inspectors that work for the city. Yeah. They find out deficiency, let's say like we've heard so far, asphalt. Okay. The contractor should be forced to guarantee his work and the products he uses for a minimum of 5 years. In this fashion, we would get the best bang for our buck. Another example is why did the city prepare a bid for animal control and housing to perfectly fit a particular firm? And now we're looking at spending twice plus the amount for the same service that was rendered last year. Something is wrong with such a department that opens up such bids. We have to start thinking city-wise like we do with our pockets at home. You just don't blow money because it's easy come, easy go. I work hard for my dollars, and the city should do exactly the same thing. Save our dollars. They are the people that administer our dollars. And really, look at what's been happening. The town almost looks as if we've got kids running the city. No, I'm proud of my city. And I want you to be proud of it too. Thank you.
If we're going to be trying to get more value for our tax dollar, it basically means we want to provide the current level of services for less cost. So the simple answer seems to be cut the costs and find efficiencies to provide the same level of services. But we know that the reality has been that we've been cutting the services in order to keep the tax dollars the same, and that means that the value of our tax dollar has been decreasing. So we have to reverse that process. And I think one of the things we have to do as councillors is force staff to cut costs without reducing the services. It has to be a whole new approach. You don't go in and cut services so you keep the costs the same. You have to cut the costs somehow. I think we also have to find ways of combining services and initiatives so that the net cost is lower. So we can merge services so that the cost is going to be lower combined, then we can get more tax value for a dollar. I think we have to also find efficiencies and eliminate unnecessary staff positions during the next 4 years. I'm not talking about layoffs, I'm talking about attrition. There are a number of positions at City Hall that we don't need. And we have to start cutting those over a 4-year period so we get more revenue freed up to provide those services. And I think for the next 4 years, we should look at a plan where we have no new initiatives unless they come from new tax dollars or new sources of revenue. And finally, we need to find ways of producing new revenue and new financing to enhance the services. And I think if we do all of that, we can accomplish that goal of increasing the value of our tax dollar quickly within the first year.
Well, what you're going to hear from me tonight quite often is implement the recommendations that came from the auditor's report. There were a lot of good recommendations in there, and I think if I'm elected to the council, that's one thing I would be pushing, is to look at some of these savings that the auditor had mentioned. Now, what I've heard from talking to the citizens of Ward 5 and other places as well is, you know, one of the biggest complaints they have is maintenance of the roads and the repairs of the roads. Well, as far as I know, what we've heard is that the repairs are not sufficient enough. They don't last long enough. So what I was told recently is that one of the things that would be a very economical way for the city to save on road repairs is use recycled asphalt. And apparently recycled is, like everything else, is cheaper than in a lot of ways, and some savings could be made. And apparently this recycled asphalt is more flexible during the colder weathers, so which would mean less repairs, and it'll last longer. But what I would encourage is that we review all the programs that are out there right now, and try and find and reduce the duplication that's going on. We have all kinds of inspectors that are out there, and we've also heard that sometimes there aren't enough inspectors, and that's why certain jobs or certain tasks are delayed. So again, sometimes meaning reassigning the inspectors. But the other thing we've heard about is a transit system. What I had said a while back was that in order to improve on the transit system, that maybe we should be looking at hubs outside the greater Sudbury, in which people would meet and be collected there to be brought to their regular workplaces. Thank you.
I'm glad Richard brought up the auditor's report and recommendations. We had the person hired to do a job. He's done his job. He's made recommendations, and like the provincial reports that are given to the provincial government, they just fall on deaf ears and they aren't implemented. Well, either they did a good job and had good recommendations, or they didn't, and why do we continue to employ the individual? I think that we need to implement not only the auditor's report, but the operational plan as well. The operational plan was developed through consultation, extensive consultation with the citizens of Greater Sudbury, and it seems to be collecting a lot of dust on the shelf. That is the go-to plan. That should be the long-range plan. That's the one we should be following, so we don't have Band-Aid solutions year after year after year. Implement the operational plan. Another thing that you have to look at is not only the level of services, but are we getting them for the most efficient price? The one thing that sticks in my mind, and sticks out very, very obviously, is the decision to fire the provincial ombudsman and hire a private firm. The provincial ombudsman's been there since 1975, the office, and the particular one that was there was hired in 2005, or appointed in 2005. He's known internationally and actually served as the vice president of his organization from 2006 to 2012. So I would suggest that that ombudsman knows his stuff. Why then was he let go brought in as a private sector company to do it at an increased cost to the taxpayer. So we're getting probably a similar or less level of service for an increased cost. That shouldn't be happening. We also need to look at our transportation services. In the valley, it's difficult to get around by bus. On Sunday, John and I rode downtown on a Sunday bus, very difficult to get along.
Wasn't that hard to get along?
Sorry, John, rebuttal?
Yeah, a quick one, not too much. Joseph, he said there's no new businesses in the industrial park in the valley. I beg to differ. Highwork Canada has just installed and grown their business twice the size. Mark Desjardins, it's a growing business. Regardless of new, it's growing. They expanded to twice their size. And I don't agree with Bob very often, but I will on the offer Extrata. We have a VERY program which is called Voluntary Early Retirement Initiative. And that would be the reduction of staff based on early retirement. It's not layoffs, it's not cuts. It's, if you're eligible to go, you can go. So in that retrospect, I do agree with Bob, which is a rare.
No rebuttals. I just think that when you look at the issues that we're talking about, we're all getting down to, there has to be something done differently. We can't continue to do what we've been doing for the last 10 or 12 years and expect any changes. So one of the things I'm looking at in the industrial park is that currently we're, and I know for a fact, we're trying to sell lots in our Valley East Industrial Park at 2 and 3 acres in size at $115,000 an acre. I think that if a business wants to buy a half-acre lot, we should be opening it up to them. The other thing is, I think when you're looking at the cost of the industrial park, I would like to recommend that we take the cost of the land and spread it out over 20 years so that businesses are not being hung up on that initial cost of getting set up. City will still get their money. Spread it out over 20 years so businesses have got time to concentrate on building the business. And I think we'll start to see the industrial park grow.
In talking to the business owners, they had a common theme. They all said the same thing. They all said that the services that they are supposed to receive in the industrial park, they are not receiving. They are receiving the basic services, which is basically water and sewer. Other than that, there's nothing else. Now, how can we attract business out there? And what kind of incentive can we give them? It goes back to what I said. We can offer them a startup grant or something for them to get started. The city, as well, when they go out and look for businesses, they canvass them, they open the doors up, they offer them grants. Well, we can do the same thing when it comes to the industrial park. In rebuttal to the ombudsman, I think the previous council decided to let him go, but then that was a democratic process that they chose. The same thing with the new council. I would certainly put it to a vote if it came to it again. Thank you.
Just one more comment on with regard to the current services and so on and what strategies to implement. We've heard it on a few mayoral debates and certainly through the candidates here about the possibility of municipal bond issue. It's one other way of looking at revenue stream into the city without relying on the backs of the taxpayer. I think we also have to look at the possibility of public-private partnerships. Highway 407 was not a great example of a public-private partnership. The public assumed all risk, the private sector got all the profit, and now it's run by a company in Spain. But we are smarter now. We can do better now. We can negotiate a much better private-public partnership. We need to find other ways to fund, and we need to start fixing our infrastructure deficit. If we wait until our kids are paying the taxes to fix it, there will only be holes left in the city of Sudbury. Okay, question number 3. What is the most important issue that you see in your ward? We'll start off with Mr. Duffy.
Important issue. keeping the Pioneer Manor in city hands and not letting it become a bottom line service like other facilities. These people have earned the right as taxpayers for a decent end of their lives. We do make a loss with Pioneer Manor. $1.4 to $1.6 million a year. But these are our grandparents, our parents. They are our taxpayers of yesterday. Another point, our industrial parks have to be brought up to the forefront of our endeavors. They should be promoted in our larger centers, and businesses should be given incentives to move in. We would need, in this area, good paying jobs. We can't expect our youth to remain in this area if they have to hold 2 or more jobs just to live a decent life for themselves and their family. We simply have to attract and grow as a community. Another thing that I'm worried about is bringing OLG Casino in downtown Sudbury. Totally against it. I want it outside of town, where if you brought it into town, at the supposed location, which would be just below the old President Hotel. We have people going in, spending money foolishly, and coming outside, we'll see prostitutes just looking for money, drug dealers, and so on. Thank you.
I think the most important issue in Ward 5 is the sense of disconnection that prevails over everyone today. People have lost all confidence in their municipal leaders, and now they feel lost because their leaders are lost. Let me explain quickly how I think this has happened. When amalgamation came, we took on the approach that councillors focused on the city of Greater Sudbury as a whole. We thought, what is best for the whole city? But what we missed was the fact that the city of Greater Sudbury is a community of communities. 12 distinct wards within that main community. But within each ward, we have distinct communities. We have the playground associations, the churches, the schools, the sports organizations, the neighborhood associations. They all form their own little communities. And what's been happening over time is each of those communities has become tighter and tighter, and they're connected together in their small little groups, but they don't connect with each other, and they're not aware of what's going on in their own community. I want to get back to the basics. I want to say that if we want to build a strong and vibrant city of Greater Sudbury, we have to build a strong and vibrant ward. So I want to work with the small groups. I want to work with the churches, the schools. I want to help them become more proud of what they are doing and help them connect within the ward. Then they will feel better about their community. Their confidence level in their leadership will increase because their leaders will be among them. And then we can get on with building a strong and vibrant city of Greater Sudbury. Very quickly, it's like trying to develop a healthy forest. You don't start with the forest, you start with the trees. You nurture the trees get strong. As the trees grow, you have a forest. We've been trying to nurture the forest, but we've been ignoring the trees. And if we don't change in the next 4 years, we're going to find we don't have any trees left.
The question is, what is the most important issue you see in your ward? I'm going to rephrase that. What I saw in the ward is not what's important here. It's what the citizens told me. The citizens told me over and over, whether it's out in Belcairn or on LaSalle or downtown Sudbury, they all said the same thing. It all related to road maintenance. It all related to road cleaning, sidewalk maintenance. That's what they said. It doesn't matter where you go. They said the winter cleaning was insufficient. The policy does not work As well, they also said that when you're leaving a road to a private contractor to clean, the road maintenance is even worse. I'm not for privatization of municipal services, but simply because I've seen it as a worker for the Ontario government, that when you privatize a service, first of all, you never get it back, and secondly, it's all about profit. That's what is the problem. Road maintenance, snow plowing, call it what you want. I know myself in the winter, I've left home walking and got back home, I was stranded because the snow plowing passed, and I couldn't jump the snowbank. No pun intended, but that's how it was. So, again, what the citizens said was road maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you. For me, the people I've been talking to and with throughout the last number of years, and certainly during the campaign, taxation and infrastructure deficit come up almost equally. Taxation, it's nonstop, it's never ending, it's, you know, how bad are we going to be hit this year as opposed to is it going to be, you know, within reasonable limits. And then the infrastructure deficit. Although we had a period of time in the city where there was 0% increases, we're paying for that now because the infrastructure upkeep and maintenance was not done when we had 0% increases. And now it's expensive to repair, there's more to repair, and we're stuck with the bill. The major concern with taxation as well is that everybody pays the same taxes but doesn't get the same service. And that's true. In the community, you're taxed based on a mill rate, and that's what we raise or lower. We're not in charge of determining what your house is worth. That's another entity all by itself. But when you look at the budget and the report, financial report from last year, and you have $8.4 million in arrears, that's frightening. People are living in our community, using our sewer, transportation, water, and they're not paying their fair share to the tune of $8.4 million. That means the rest of us have to make up for it. The Municipal Act provides for the municipality to sell properties that are in arrears if they don't pay up. And I think we have to start taking a hard line. People are paying taxes for everybody's benefit in this community. If you're not paying taxes, we're going to have to sell your property.
To date, I would have knocked on more, but the provincial election slowed me down. But I've knocked on over 1,800 doors. I apologize if I haven't gotten yours, I'm working on it. 1,800 different people I've talked to. There's not just one. I've tried to figure out the average, but the biggest one is fear. The fear of what service is going to be cut next, the fear of how much is my tax rate going to go up next year, and the fear of will I be able to maintain and live in my home in my golden years. Outrageous property taxes are unacceptable. Many have also mentioned their outrageous hydro bills, which is a provincial matter and out of our control, but as things get downloaded from the province, everything gets going here. Bus services on Sunday. That's actually come up a lot. Like Ken said, we rode the bus in the sun a couple of weeks ago and we met a great group of people. We need better bus services for people who use it every day. That's the biggest issue, is fear. And we have to start turning on the lights and showing people that there's not going to be fear at the City Hall anymore. Thank you.
I guess it's about Ward 5 right now in Valley and Pleasant Valley seem to be in fair condition as compared to the street I live on. They haven't done the street since 1970. Anybody riding the transit system would have to hold their false teeth because it's wavy like this and it's flooded at least once or twice a year. Bus service. Bus service should be the same everywhere in Greater Sudbury. If you're in Balcarron, or Pleasant Valley, or downtown Sudbury, you should have exactly the same service. And this includes weekends. I lived all my life working shifts, and I don't see what's wrong with a bus driver working shifts to make sure that people get home at 2 o'clock. They're going to take it away from you.
No, you're just going to hand it to him. Thank you.
This whole issue of people expecting better services and people paying more taxes and getting less services, I think it really all does boil down to the fact that people are really tired of being ignored, and they feel that they're being ignored. And I don't think they are, but they feel it. And perception is everything in this world. So I think we really have to start making some obvious effort to get back to the basics, to get back to the ground